Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, wherever you happen to be at in the world joining us today. Welcome to our first Advanced Practitioner Call of 2019. We're really excited to bring to you a really hot topic that a lot of our clients have been talking about. We'll be focusing today on Cherwell upgrades versus content packs. We have a senior consultant, Kim Euchre, who's going to be leading through today. If you've never been on one of our calls, we do love to have questions. We will keep everyone muted during the presentation part of the call, so if you have questions for Kim, I am happy to interrupt her as we go along. You can place those in the questions panel. If you don't see a questions panel, look for the orange box with a white arrow. If you click that, it should expand all your panes and you should find a section to enter questions there. When the presentation concludes, we'll allow the opportunity for people to go unmuted and ask Kim any questions on this topic and any other topic you might have in mind. So we'll keep the lines open as long as you have questions for Kim this afternoon. If you're not familiar with Stratacom, I'll do a very quick 1-minute overview. We're an IT service management consulting organization. We started in 1997, and we've always focused on ITSM. It's our bread and butter, what we do best, so we stay focused on that. We've always worked in the enterprise space with some of the legacy tools that you're all probably familiar with, and Cherwell has become a focus for us since 2012, so we were one of the early partners to sign on with Cherwell, and we have a very large senior consulting staff focused on Cherwell to date. We do projects anywhere from project-based work to staff augmentation. So if we can ever assist you and your team with projects or Cherwell consulting needs now in the future, please reach out anytime. With that, let's get right into our content. I will turn it over to Kim. It's all yours, Kim.
Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Cherwell content packs versus Cherwell releases, and so we're going to drive right into the content. Cherwell releases. A Cherwell release, the current release as of January 2009 is 19, is 951. There were too many nines in that. New releases are usually available 3 to 5 times a year. Over the past year, we went through I think at the beginning of the year, we were on 9.3. We went through several iterations of 9.3 to 9.4. And at the end of the year, they ended up on 9.5.1. Each release contains new foundation improvements, which may include items like a change to a one-step functionality where they might give you a thing for trusted agents. That's one of the newer things that has come along in the more recent times. Changes to relationship capabilities as far as whether or not you load the entire relationship, whether you're loading just the keys, so what pieces of a relationship you're building. I'm just trying to pull little pieces of examples that have come over the last couple releases. There may be new system functions that are available and lots of other things as well. So, along with the new system functions there, one of the most recent ones in 9.4 and or 9.5 was the what system am I on? Am I on development, production? And that's something that when you go and restore a system, you're going to be asked whether or not, this is a production or a development system. And also when you first install 9.4, 9.5, you're going to get that same question. And it's going to ask you, what system am I upgrading? So all upgraded systems are going to automatically receive foundation improvements. So typically a release item, those are things that will extend Cherwell capabilities. Those items will work with existing Cherwell screens and functionality. So those are things that you're going to get and will work with your current customized system generally. They're going to be things that are going to extend your capabilities with Cherwell and keep promoting and extending the life of your tool. And those Cherwell release items will not generally change Cherwell existing functionality and customization. I can think of one thing in the last couple releases that has come along, and that's the Cherwell culture. When they were starting to build the foundation for some of the language content updates, one of the upgrades went through and updated all of your existing business objects and added the Cherwell culture field. That is an anomaly because normally Cherwell does not generally touch and add things to your existing tables that you have out there. And so with Cherwell releases, periodically Cherwell will change and or deliver new out-of-box content. So out-of-box content would contain things like changes in SLA calculations, new business objects. For example, in version 7, the service catalog templates and the work units, new business functionality, new formats, and changing supplier to vendor. They did that a few releases ago. New business functionality, formats for existing forms. They've done that a few times over the lifetime of Cherwell. And this content is not delivered as part of an upgrade. So if I'm an existing Cherwell customer and I were to go ahead and upgrade my system, this is the part of Cherwell that I am not going to necessarily just receive, by doing an upgrade, because this is kind of like an optional component. They are things that could interface with existing business objects. They could alter some of the way your system works. So Cherwell does not just automatically upgrade your system or add these things as it moves along, because it could alter your existing functionality. But again, content may extend and change your Cherwell system. So what's new in terms of upgrades? So these aren't all brand new, but some have been delivered with some of the more recent Cherwell upgrades. The culture that was added to all tables, like I said, used to support the multiple languages. Adaptive layouts is another more recent thing that has come along for forms. And then even more recently, they did the adaptive layouts for dashboards. What the adaptive layouts does is that it allows me or a customer to define a form for a mobile device versus a tablet device versus a small laptop or a big, huge, wide screen. I could actually reformat my Cherwell screens n number of times if I wanted to. Of course, that takes that amount of time to then build a different screen for each one of those layouts, but you have that capability. Metrics is another thing that was added in terms of an upgrade. Metrics was a foundation thing, so when metrics became available, that was not a content. That was something that came along as soon as I upgraded my system. I now had new functionality with metrics. Trusted agents is another thing that has come along in the last few iterations. And also, then there have been new managers that have been available in the blueprints to move things from development to production or between systems. So in terms of content, some of the things that have been delivered over the last few generations of Cherwell, the agreements realignment for OLAs and underpinning contracts. Initially, those used to be their own business object. So OLA was its own self-standing business object. Underpinning contract was its own self-standing business object. And Cherwell then put those into a group object and combined. So agreement is the group leader, and then an OLA and an underpinning contract is a group member underneath of that. If you had something else that was not an OLA and an underpinning contract, you now have the capability of building a different type of agreement that would fit into that structure. Service catalog templates are another thing, and I think I have this later on in one of these slides, but service catalog templates is a functionality that allows you to interface with a incident and its subcategory, and then deliver business functionality as part of that continuity. The vendor object was changed to the supplier business object, and it came along with a lot of different dashboards and such. License tracking was another one of those items, and that also came along with a lot of different dashboards that allow you to track and turn on license tracking. And in the most recent, the task business object was changed to a group business object. So going back and deciding Cherwell upgrades versus Cherwell content. With an upgrade, you don't have choices. those are delivered with the system upgrade. So as soon as I say system upgrade, I'm going to get that functionality. Doesn't affect any of the current customizations in the business objects. The upgrades are simple to apply and upgrade. It's just a simple executable that says, what system do you want to upgrade? You click OK, sign in, and your changes have been upgraded. Generally, for most systems, it takes less than about 5 to 10 minutes to do an upgrade, depending upon the size of your system. It may even take less time than that. With Cherwell Content, you can decide when and if you want to install content. So it's really more customer driven. You can and may affect, it can and may affect current customizations and business objects. Those typically are more complex to apply, and they also may need to be adjusted based on some existing customizations that you've performed and other changes. So for example, if you have something like a risk assessment that you created, I mean, that's a very generic table that you created back in the early versions of Cherwell, and you want to now apply it, even there may be some conflict in trying to, because Cherwell now has its own thing called risk management, risk assessment. And so then if you're trying to merge those two things together, you may need to finesse it a little bit to get those things untied from each other in order to get that across. And that's one of the reasons why Cherwell does not just automatically deploy content. So how do you apply change content? Well, in some cases, there's prepackaged content. So there are a few prepackaged maps from the Cherwell Map Exchange. And this is good when the existing functionality is not going to interface with the existing customizations. The best example of this is the license usage. If you don't have the license usage map on your system, it is a great way of tracking your licenses and some of that stuff, and you can track it right from a dashboard. You can turn it on from a dashboard. I can tell you, I just actually, while I was compiling this presentation, one of my customers actually asked me about that map, and or asked me about the license tracking, and I was able to tell them to go to the map store and get it. So this is probably the best example of a simple prepackaged map that you can install, and it's not going to affect anything. A custom map, you can create custom maps and blueprints that are created from out-of-box content. And I say that these are best when the content may interact lightly or heavily with existing customizations. Service catalog templates and work units are an example. You want parts of the new functionality, and installing the content may require additional steps or more finesse. So when I go out to a customer and I do the service catalog templates and the work units, Cherwell does have a map called Service Catalog Template and Work Unit Lite. And it's called Lite because it's not the all-encompassing pieces of it. It's just a part of that functionality, so that was the part that I think that could be easily delivered without like a lot of interaction. And when I go out to do the service catalog templates and or work units, I do it systemically. So I say, well, here's all the pieces that interact with the service catalog templates and the work units, and here's all the pieces that you want. And so we actually step through it. We go through and do the stuff to change out the agreements for the group object. And in most cases, a lot of companies haven't done a lot with the OLAs and the underpinning contracts. So that's an easy enough thing to delete out those objects and recreate that as a group object. And so we've done that. And then after we've applied all of those changes, then we will go in and start to build a custom map that has just what the pieces that they need in order to get their system upgraded. And I've done this successfully to a number of different organizations. And again, I really like doing the custom version because it gives you a chance to really interact and change what you need to change. And the emphasis on that last step is by doing that custom one, you have the additional option of stopping it or dissecting it into multiple steps if you need to. And that's really all I have on the, I'm sure that people are going to have questions. I can certainly go into any level of detail on any of the customizations or content that have been delivered. And like I said, I'm sure that there's going to be questions.
Yep, there is a couple questions coming in. The first one is, what's an OLA?
An OLA is an operating level agreement.
Can you say how that differs from an SLA?
Well, the SLA, the service level agreement, is the agreement that you have with your customer. Your agreements, your OLAs and your underpinning contracts, UC for short, those are things that are more internal. So those are agreements that you have with IT to IT, or you have IT to a vendor like us, like Stratacom or whatever. You may have an underpinning contract or an operating level agreement with us. So those are the differences. So the SLA is really the agreement that you have with your customer. Your agreements are the things that are internal, that those are your agreements that you have with IT and with other organizations within your system.
Okay, great, thanks. We've got lots of other questions pouring in here. So we'll just go from the top. The next question is a comment and then a follow-on question. We just upgraded from 9.3.2 to 9.5.0, and it took 75 minutes. Is there a map to convert the task BO to group BO?
Not at this time. I have no idea what Cherwell will do, but I mean, there is not at this time a automatic way of converting. You know, that's not something that I would jump into right away. I mean, certainly you could. You have as many capabilities right now with task not being a group object, so that's not something that I have been pressing a lot of my customers to get there and do that. You know, with the service catalog templates and the work units, I can tell you that that's one of those things that I tell my customers, if you don't have this, you probably should have this in your system. And so that's one of the first things. If I find out that you're from an older system and you don't have the service catalog templates in the work units, that's generally one of those first steps that I try and get you to put that onto your system, especially if you're a workflow driven fulfillment for like incident and service request management. You definitely want to have the service catalog templates in the work units.
Okay, great. I don't see any other follow-on questions to that one specifically, so we'll move on to the next. The next question is, are all content updates available as maps?
I don't believe I mean, certainly if there's content that has been added to a system, or like, let's say we're on let's say there was something that was released for 9.5, and I can't think of anything that was released off the top of my head for 9.5, but let's say there was a new business object for 9.5, and I want to have that in my 9.5 system. So the first thing I would do is make sure that I'm on the same version. So I would upgrade my existing system. And then what I would do is I would go and create my map. I mean, if there was not a prepackaged map from Cherwell, I would go and create my map from an out-of-box, vanilla system with no additional changes. And then once I built that map, then I would be able to deploy it to my system, to my 9.5 system. Okay, but you want to make sure you're on the similar version.
Okay, great. Some of these questions are bleeding into the same box, so I'll do my best to read them as separate questions for the next few here. The next one appears to be, for making a content map, do you generally take it from a Cherwell demo czar or a Cherwell starter czar?
I generally take it from a Cherwell demo czar because the Cherwell starter czar sometimes is a little too crippled. So, I mean, the Cherwell starter czar is pretty pretty vanilla. I mean, it's vanilla with an extra vanilla added onto it. The demo at least has like some data, so it has an example of being able to at least play with something and test something before you actually create it. So I generally work with the demo versions. I generally don't start with a pure vanilla version with a starter version. But that's a great question.
All right. The next one is, we are on 950 and do not have version 7 content. We're finding that we can't load some maps because of missing content. What other risks are there if we don't add version 7 content or update other content going forward?
Well, that's obviously one of the risks. I mean, if you aren't updating your content, you may have maps that aren't going to play well. For example, the red map, that's a Stratacom map that we have put out for Cherwell. It is requirements, enhancements, and defects. That map relies on some of the 7.1 content for the service catalog templates and the work units as well. So it's going to fail if you try and go and install it on an earlier version. And so you may, like as a step to installing the red map, you may have to stop and install, prior content first, get all of that installed, and then move forward with some of those other maps.
Okay. The next question appears to be, oh, okay. It was cut off and I was able to fix it. Do you need to be experienced with doing maps in order to apply content packs?
Generally, you don't need to be too experienced with creating a map. However, about 3 or 4 months ago, we actually, Stratacom did a webinar on maps, creating a map and such. And with that, there are definite differences on how you actually apply a map. So depending upon which selections you choose, are you going to select the apply, just don't ask me any questions, ask me some questions, or ask me about everything. Each of those options are going to give you different results. So it is something that if you have problems, typically you want to pick the middle option, ask me some of the time, and that will actually get you do the most graceful application of the map.
Okay, this person, I'm going to read their second question further down the list because it looks related. What process should we use to determine when to do a content patch?
Well, there's obviously when you need something, for example, if you're trying to apply that red map and you say, oh my God, I can't apply red because I'm missing something else, that's a good reason. And some of the times there's going to be functionality from that particular map that's going to be functionality that you have even asked for from Cherwell, possibly. And so, there's all kinds of reasons. Your reasons will vary. But I like to keep on top, so I actually go out to the Cherwell community often, and I like to keep on top of the Cherwell releases. I can tell you that the day of a release, one of the very first things I do during that day is I read through all of the notes. And I read through everything that was done and added as part of that release, everything that was fixed, everything that was added, so that I have a good idea of, what content if there is content out there that I may need to apply.
Good idea. Next question, will there be a content pack for the new forms in 9.5, for example, incident?
I do not know. I'm not even, hold on a second, I'm just going to go pull up my 9.5 system over here. I'm going to check out the forms. It's waiting to come up here. Just one moment, please.
No problem.
So for right now, I don't see it, and unless you're on a much earlier version, I don't see a huge number of changes to this form. However, yeah, I don't see a whole lot of, because this is an out-of-box 950. So there may be some other changes that have come along that I like I said, I think I started with a 950 on this one. I think this was an out-of-box 950. So
Okay, great.
yes, so it would be fairly easy. Let's say that this were significantly changed. I can go ahead and move over forms. What I would do for my system is I might do something like take my existing form, go to my form properties, change my name of the form, and then I would actually do like a new form. Actually, that's probably what I would do. Is I would do a new form. I would no here. Hang on a second. Stratacom copy. And so then I have a blank form here. And so what I would do is I would go back to my other form. The reason why I'm showing you this and doing this is because if you don't save a copy of, you would lose a copy of this form, of your existing form. And I'm assuming that, your form is customized like everybody else's. And so, oh, I must not have saved that original form. It didn't show up in my list. Anyway, I would save off a copy of that form like with my own name. And then I could go ahead and say, okay, we'll bring in that new form, and it will bring it in as that default form and overlay the default, but it's not going to overlay that copy of the form that I created or the copy of my forms that I created. The important thing there is that then I can theoretically have both sets of forms living side by side, and then I have a choice. If I overlaid the default form and I didn't do that, I don't have a choice. I mean, I've got what the new form is, and I'm stuck with the new, well, until I make changes to it, I'm stuck with the new form. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me. Hopefully it does to our audience too.
Well, certainly, I mean, people are able to ask additional questions if it didn't, or if they have additional questions.
All right, well, we still have a long list of questions, so why don't we keep going through that? How are you making custom content updates? Are you standing up a default new install for the latest version, then selecting objects to include the custom map individually?
Yes, that's exactly what I do. So if I'm going to go and create a content pack, or for me, I mean like a custom content pack for a company, I will go through and start with a out-of-box system that is absolutely brand new that I just installed, and then I will go and pull those pieces of content that I want.
Great. Is there a tool we can run to see how behind we are content-wise?
I don't recall. There's not a tool. I believe there is a way to tell what your content version is, but I don't remember exactly what that is. So I would have to actually go and take a look. So certainly send that question off to Laura, and we'll get back to you on that. Or Laura can, take your information, and I will definitely, get back to you on that.
Okay.
I think there is a way of determining what the content version is, but I don't recall how to exactly do that. I usually do it by site. I've been working with Cherwell since version 3. So, I mean, I can typically look at a system and I can pretty much tell you what your content pack is. It was kind of funny because maybe about 6 months ago, we had a customer who was having trouble installing Red. And she told me what her problem was. And I said, your content is pre-version 7. She says, no, we started on version 7 something. Or I'm like, no, your content is definitely pre-version 7. And she and I logged onto her system together, and I said, look, you're missing A, B, C, D, and E. And, I was able to therefore show her that, she was, her content was pre-version 7. So maybe they installed a version 6 something and they upgraded it to a 7.1 when they started, but they started with a pre-version 7 instance. And so, like I said, I typically don't rely on like a number. I typically rely on, looking at what's available in the system to kind of like tell me what content you're on.
Okay,
or
great.
What content you started with.
Maybe we can schedule some one-on-one. Okay. Does Cherwell offer the default out-of-box content as a download somewhere?
What I said is Cherwell does provide some of the content packs on demand. I mean, like, so if we were to close this here, hang on just a second. And we go to the maps and we go to the exchange. This may take a minute, I'm sorry. Okay, so here we are. We'll go to Browse Content. So knowledge-centered support, I don't know if that ever was part of the base content. So here's that license management usage. So that was something that was added along the way. Let's see. I'm looking for the, let me just do a search here as opposed to doing that. So light. Of course, when you're looking for something, you can never find what you're looking for. It's in this list somewhere here. Let's look for the word light. Wait, our search just has a whole bunch of stuff. All right. Servants catalog. Needless to say, it would be in this list, and it would be a Cherwell map. So some of it will be, it will all be out here. And sometimes it will say it's content. Other times it may not. Like, I don't know that license is, I think that license is a standalone map anyway. But definitely, I mean, you can go and find those out here on the map store.
All right, let's keep working through the list. We implemented our own site and building objects. In order to upgrade to 9.5, do we need to remove these?
You should not ever need to remove custom things from your system. Those should upgrade just fine. What kind of customizations were they?
If you want to answer the end of the questions, Payne, I'll repeat it to Kim. Otherwise, you can go ahead and raise your hand and I will unmute you. We created our own building and site objects. Thank you, Scott.
Oh, there's an
In
example.
9.3.
That's actually a great example, because I think building is something that came along with 9.5. I believe that's a new feature in 9.5. So right there, building, and that's actually one of those things where I said that, like, I can immediately tell you what content you're on based on what's available in your system, and that would be something where you would possibly fool me because you have something that looks just like it. However, that might be something where if you want to use the Cherwell version of it, that you may need to do a special, you definitely would need to do a special map if you want to merge the content or if you want to replace the content. If you want to replace the content, I typically would take the data out of there. I would extract the data. I would delete the building. I would then bring over the out-of-the-box map, and then I would extend the out-of-the-box one with what I need in it, and then I would go and import my data back into the object. That would be the cleanest way. You may be able to merge business objects, but depending upon your usage and where all of your relationships are, you may have some issues merging Cherwell's building object with your building object. From my previous experience.
All right. I have follow-on comment from this person. It keeps bumping down here. It says export data, delete objects, then do upgrade sounds best to me. All right, good question. We still got quite a big list of questions, so let's keep them through. Next one, we recently upgraded from 9.1 to 9.5 and noticed the new site and building, our business objects, the building business objects did not get added into our environment. Is there a way to extract the content from the upgrade and apply it separately?
Well, what you would do is you would bring up a 950 system just like this, and then you would create a map with the site and the building. You would always want to make sure that you go through, for example, each one of your managers, like for the one steps, since these are major business objects, you would want to go and make sure you go through, for example, the site with one of them, like for the building. So make sure if there's any one steps, like right here, here's some of the building one steps. And then as you go and deploy that, you can actually scan your map, just like kind of like you would scan a blueprint, but the scanning of the map may tell you additional things that are possibly missing that need to be included. So then you can actually go through and resolve those items, and then build that custom map moving forward. I try not to bring more than I need, but I definitely do that scan to show what I might need, what theoretically might be missing off of a map. And then off that custom map, what I would then do is then I would go to my destination system or my client system, and then we would walk through a copy of that and apply it, and then do a scan on that system and see, did I get everything? Because if I didn't get everything, I can then go back, I can edit my map, I can then add those pieces that are needed, and then keep repeating that process until I have a clean destination copy of the map that can be applied. And that's how I basically resolve those.
All right. If we choose to update to version 7 content, is it important to lock down the system until adding the content is complete?
It's important to get it done quickly. I can tell you, my customers can tell you that I have done that with them. As we move forward and we apply the version 7 content, you don't want to be making other system changes. Like, let's say I start in September. I, test out the map. The map works great in September. And then I go and I make a million other system changes in October, November, December, and January is now here. And now I'm going to go and apply that map. Well, my application of the map might work and react and look a little different depending upon what I've done in October, November, and December. So that's one of those reasons why you want to apply it, test it, and then if you're not going to move forward, then you have that process down. You've recorded those steps, and then you would go through in January. You would go through a quicker then apply, test, and then implement. So you just don't want a huge amount of time between the time that you're applying that map in a development environment and you're moving that map forward to a production environment. You want to have a short, because like I said, if that resulting blueprint that you're going to move forward had any changes or anything, you could have remove something from your production install. Like if I've added fields to my incident object or added something along the way, you have that possibility of losing something.
Good advice. Okay, quick question here. What's a group object?
Cherwell has different types of objects. So a major business object, and I'm walking through all of them, so pardon me. A major business object is something that has major application to the entire system. So incident, for example, incident is part of the ITIL system, and incident drives is a driver object. Supporting objects like approvals and journals and specifics, those all support major business objects. Lookup tables are validation and lookup data for all of the different types of objects. Group objects are ones, and you'll notice that group objects are also major objects or supporting objects or lookup objects. And the group object has a leader, so the leader defines the group or the area to which everything under it applies. So for example, agreement is the area of which I'm working with here. An OLA is a type of agreement. An underpinning contract is a type of agreement. In the case of configuration item, the group leader is configuration item. And if we go in here and look at the group leader, the group leader has a set number of characteristics of attributes. And if we go into one of the children, one of the members, like computer is always going to inherit all of the base attributes of its parent, and then it can have any additional things that are added below it that are attributes that are specific to computer, or specific to mobile device, or specific to printer. Because while each one of those is going to share some attributes, some of those may also have their own specific attributes that are just solely unto them. Does that explain what a group object is? So it's really a parent and then its children or members, that they kind of like, they share the same kinds of data and the same kinds of attributes.
I think that was pretty clear. We'll move on to the next. Did that? All right. Next question, how do we know what content version we are on?
That's one of those things I said I'll have to go and find out, and I'll get back to you.
Perfect. All right, since out-of-the-box improvements may not identically match upgrade improvements, would there ever be a chance of an out-of-the-box improvement / feature behaving differently than an upgrade, or vice versa?
Can you repeat that question, please?
Yes. Since out-of-the-box improvements may not identically match upgrade improvements, would there ever be the chance of an out-of-the-box improvement or feature behaving differently than an upgrade or vice versa?
In most cases, a Cherwell improvement should operate the same, depending upon whether you had it exist, or your enhancements would work differently, because obviously your enhancement is something that you have built specifically for your organization. So, I mean, if you built a certain process and Cherwell came along and had their own process later on for something similar, like building or site, then those definitely would be changes that you would want to validate that the Cherwell version extends or does everything that yours does, and you would probably have to merge those two types of functionality if you wanted to install the Cherwell one.
All right, next question. We're missing the content version stored value in our environment. How else can we check what content version we're on?
I will get back to you on
these are repeating.
That's quite all right.
Right. How would I know if I have the service catalogs and work units installed? What would I look for?
Well, the service catalog templates is right here. So if you actually look at service catalog template is a major business object. Work unit is also a major business object. And then if we go into the supporting objects, service catalog template work unit join is a supporting object to support both of those. There is, in the lookup tables, there's like actually a whole bunch of them. So there are service catalog temp, there's SCT, maybe it's SCT, SCT status, SCT work unit category, and then there's like work unit status. So there's a number of other tables that go along with that. So it's a matter of going through each object, adding all of those pieces, and then, like I said, going through each one of the managers, because, for example, the manager's one steps is going to also have like your work units and your service catalog templates. It's going to have some additional one steps that have to go along with it to perform some of that functionality. So it's definitely something that I can say is not for the faint of heart. I mean, so if you're relatively new to Cherwell, definitely finding somebody, like Stratacom or anybody else to help you, that's a great thing. But if you're really experienced, I mean, it is something that you could try and build the map for yourself. Or again, you can also go and get the light version that Cherwell has too, which breaks some of those links. The thing with service catalog templates is it's not just those tables, but then you also have some of the links to each one of the major business objects. There is a field that is stored in incident as well to support some of those tables. Plus, there are relationships, like there's a service catalog template relationship here. And there's a lot of esoterics there that, you just, you need to know what you need to bring over. And you don't necessarily know that unless you've actually been there, done that. And you could try, and the first time, I encourage failure. I think that failure is a great way to learn something. You learn way more by not doing something correctly than you do doing it correctly. So I encourage you to go out and give it a run and see how it goes, and then you'll learn how to what you missed and learn how to fix it the next time.
Okay, great. The next question is, how do we roll back content?
That's difficult. Rolling back content, once Cherwell has extended some of those tables, you can't unextend them sometimes. what I would suggest is always, always before you apply content, make sure you have a backed up copy of your system. Never apply content the first time to production. You always want to start off with a pure 100% viable copy between production and development. Apply that content, test that development. Once you're happy with that, you could actually take that blueprint that was created out of the map and apply that blueprint straight to production. And you're going to have the best copy of the system, or best copy of the content that gets applied in both places. It would be exactly the same because all of your options that you selected would be exactly the same. But I would say go through and verify and validate and test on your development system, and never apply a map directly to production.
Good advice. Okay, we may have covered this, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just for a little bit more clarification. Are content packs different from maps, or are content packs a type of map?
Content packs are a map. They're just content that is the delivery mechanism for the content is the map. So that's really what I mean, there is no real difference. I mean, it's the delivery mechanism for the content is the map.
Okay. We don't have work units or tasks as a group BO. Looking at work units, they look like how we use tasks. Is there a difference?
Well, work units is never going to be a group business object. Tasks is in 9.5 a group business object, but you would have to convert it to, you would have to have a way of either A, deleting your task business object and converting it to a group business object like you see here, or you would have to then go through and delete your task and then re-add it as a group business object and then go ahead and work through it. I would not be in a hurry to convert it right now because I think that the task is quite functional the way even when it's not a group business object, because one of the ways that you could work with it without it being a group business object is on your, and I'm just going to go here to an approval task here. This is one that's already been, so on my base screen for my work, on my task, excuse me, I could have nothing on this screen except for an embedded form. So I could create that, whoops, hang on a second, down here at the bottom. And so make my embedded form the entire area. And depending upon what type of task it was, whether it was an approval task or whether it was a work item task or an end task. And I'm speaking right now from the perspective of, let's pretend that tasks never became a group business object. I can go ahead then and I could create my new form for approvals. So I just went ahead and that's not exactly the size that I want, but you know, that's fine. And it's not the theme and everything. But the fact is that I now have I have a form here, and I can actually put a value on my task that says form to display or type of task. And then when it brings up the task, it could display an approval form when the type of task was approval. It could display a work item task when the type of task was a, so basically you'd be doing the same kinds of things that you could do with a group task without it actually being a group. So then group business objects or task is a a nice thing if you happen to be there, but I'm not going to push a lot of my people to upgrade right away because I don't think it's that crucial. Upgrading the work service catalog templates and work units, that's something you definitely want to have in your system. But the tasks is a nice to have, but it's not a crucial need. If you have one, you're just as good as having the other.
Okay. Can you list content indicators, such as new business object indicating new content as of version X?
Well, and I tried to do that in my presentation. For example, like I said, I know that looking at the major business objects, agreement changing to a group business object, and so there's an example with agreement changing to a group business object. What I've done for my clients who have converted that is we went and deleted and broke all the relationships between OLE and all of the incident and contracts and all those things. We broke all of those relationships, and then we actually physically deleted the OLA object and the underpinning contract object. And then with the map, I brought in the agreement business object, and then the OLA and the underpinning contract as members. And then we recreated those links to each one of the other business objects. So that is new as of, I think, like 7.1, 9.5 for building. Nothing there. Service cart was 7.1, service catalog template 7.1, site 9.5. Supplier and supplier catalog items, that stuff I think changed around 7.1 as well. Work unit changed around 7.1. And then the supporting tables and everything that would support each one of those major business objects. I mean, like, so there's risk assessment that actually supports change. I don't remember which version, which content that came in at. It was somewhere around that 7, but I don't remember exactly where. So risk weight, scorecard weight, those all came along with the supplier changes, because those are things that relate to supplier. And that was one of those cases where vendor changed to supplier. So they changed the name of the major business object, they changed the content, they changed the forms, everything with that. Does that answer the question? I mean, so some of it, like I said, is just a visual thing that I just kind of know. All of these service complaints, service history, service impact, service schedule, those all came along with that service catalog template content. So as content packs go, that was probably a major component because there were a lot of pieces that came along with that content with 7.1. So content is not delivered as majorly and as often as some of the other pieces.
Okay, the asker of the question says, could I maintain vendor and add supplier, perhaps move data?
Can you add vendor or change vendor to supplier and move data?
Could I maintain vendor and add supplier, then perhaps move data?
No, because the vendor and supplier are by the GUIDs, the same business object. So you would have to then, what you would have to do is you would have to really, I don't know that there would be any way of maintaining both of them side by side. You may be able to get away within a map saying that you want to create a new business object, but you may run into just as many issues trying to do that as you would. If I wanted to do that, I probably would basically delete, take the content, extract the content, delete my business object, delete my vendor business object, and I would re-add it if that were the case. If I, had a lot of changes or whatever, yeah, vendor to supplier is one of those things that definitely is going to try and overlay. It's not going to let you. It's not going to be very easy to merge. You want to merge it or overlay it. It's not going to be very. You can't have a standalone next to it.
Okay. Person says thank you. The next 5 or so comments, do you have the questions, Payne? Can you see it? The next 5 or so are hints from people on how to see the content version. Could you just scan through those real quick? And if there's anything you haven't showed or that's new for the audience, you could show them. Otherwise, we could delete those comments if you had that covered.
I see the questions pane, but I don't see
click the down triangle next to the word questions, and it should expand it for you. Okay, so just scan through about the top 5 that are left there and see if there's anything we should bring to the attention of the group. It's basically a bunch of people answering the content version question.
You said the top 5?
Yeah, starting at 1236.
Oh,
the top 5.
Okay.
Yep, if you sort by time entered, 1236 should be the most current question. We're working our way from first asked to last asked questions.
Sorry, it keeps changing on me here. Just bear with me. Okay, and that is, of course, only if you actually have that, because I did hear somebody say that they didn't have that stored value. But if you actually go into your stored values and you search on content, you would have a content version. And so right now, I believe, though, that if you don't have this, I thought that there was another way of telling, outside of what I just did, of telling what your content version is. So this tells me that my content version, and I'm sorry, that is unreadable at the moment. Just bear with me. (950) 10.25.18.037 EN. So this version that I'm looking at here is a 950 content pack, content release. That means that that's what I started with. And Laura, I happened to notice that somebody also said that the work unit and catalog was removed, map was removed from the map store, and that may be for the reasons why. I mean, it was not an easy map to deliver because it really was pretty. It needed to be pretty custom based on your system, and so that's why. I mean, I've successfully provided that functionality to a number of my clients. And it really is great functionality that was in the out-of-the-box tool. And I was very excited to be able to deliver it to other people.
Okay, can I go ahead and delete all the comments about content version?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, try to catch up to where we are at.
And thanks everybody for the questions.
All right. This person is confused. She says, we were on a 5.11 version of Cherwell that we had been upgrading and updated to 7 something. Then we wanted a lot of these new maps and did a clean install and new build with 9.3.2. Does that mean we have the content of 7?
Yes. So in that particular case, I mean, since you started with 5, when you wanted that new functionality, we could have gone through and done a content upgrade. Like I said, that we applied different maps. The alternative way to get new content like that is by doing the method that you chose, and that is by doing a fresh install and basically starting over. That may be very applicable for your system. That's not necessarily applicable for all systems. Some organizations have a lot of customizations and a lot of their own content that they've built in, and it's just not practical to go ahead and start over from scratch. But yes, you do have the content.
Okay. In the Map Exchange, what's the difference between platform version and out-of-the-box version under requirements?
Well, out-of-the-box version would be your content version. Platform version would be the current version that you're currently on. So if the platform version was 7.1, that means that your content should be equal to 7.1. So for example, like when we talk about Red requires a content version, a platform version, the content version, I can't remember what you said, their out-of-box version of 7.1, and it requires a platform version of 7.1 as well. So, but if the platform version is those functionalities have been delivered through the upgrade that are part of the inherent system. So every person who does an upgrade gets that platform version. Every person who does an upgrade does not automatically get the content version.
Okay. Okay, next one. I noticed in the media folder on Cherwell 9.5.1 disk image, they now have 3 ZARs, Cherwell Demo, Platform, and Starter. Have you had a chance to explore the Cherwell Platform ZAR? The demo is 110 megabytes, Platform is 10, and Starter is 40.
I did notice that when I was out there. I haven't applied that. I was, I did see that that was the smallest of the 3. So I'm kind of thinking that if the starter is already a little bit short on content as it is, then I'm thinking that the platform is going to be even shorter. That may be for people who want to develop other things in Cherwell other than ITSM. So the platform would be possibly, and I haven't applied it yet, so I don't know what it contains, but it could actually possibly not have some of the ITSM business objects in it at all, and just be the Cherwell capabilities. So the ability to do a one-step, the ability to create a business object, the ability to create an expression and those kinds of things, but without any content whatsoever. That would be my guess. I haven't applied it, so I don't know, but that would be an educated guess.
Okay. When you create a custom map, is there a way to merge or overwrite business object IDs from BOs? For example, incidents will always be the same ID, but if I create a custom map creating my own incident-like BO, how do I make sure I can receive future upgrades, avoiding conflicts because these IDs are different?
Well, when you create a map, the idea of a map is being able to deploy them and merge that content together. So if I'm creating a map with an incident, if I'm creating an incident, a separate incident object, like, a Stratacom incident or something like that, and then I want to merge those two things together, it's not going to be exceptionally easy. I would have to go and build out the internal version, the new version that's out of box, to include any of my custom fields. Then I would have to basically go through my own kind of upgrade and bring any of that data across that I want to bring over. But I would not be able to then, transfer expressions or transfer auto-populates or anything. I would have to build those out and customize that out-of-box business object to include some of those things. So a lot of those things are basically bound to the ID of incident and the association of incident. So I would have to basically rebuild those. I mean, your business object, it doesn't end object. I say incident, but it could be my custom object, it could be whatever, but I'm still going to have to build those things out individually. Because there's nothing that will copy expressions right now.
Okay. All right, we have service catalog template in our major BO, but not really using it apparently. Are we missing a useful tool, and would you recommend us looking at it?
Yes, you are. Well, there's a lot of reasons to use it. That was actually included on a separate, Laura could probably get you that presentation as well. That was, and maybe a link to the content as well, because we do keep copies, recorded copies of the presentations. But we did do one on service catalog templates and work units about 8 months ago. I'm not sure exactly how long, but it was last year was the last time we had done that.
I'll make a note to send that his way. All right. The next question, Kim, I'm going to have you read it. It's kind of a long one, and see how to best answer it. If you could take a quick look, it's the one that came in at 102 from Charles.
When you say 102, you really mean 202, right?
Oh, 202 your time. Yep, shows at 102 on my computer.
Okay.
I guess it's adjusted for our time zones.
Okay, so let me go ahead and take a look here. The question is about the Cherwell mail delivery service. I haven't had to do too much with the mail delivery service at this time. The Cherwell mail delivery service is a separate service that is delivered as part of your Cherwell install. So it would show up on your server where you start and restart your automation process server and your mail delivery service. And hold on just 1 second here. Oh, it's right there. So it would show up in this list. So if you look here under your application server and your automation process server, here's the mail delivery service. Right now, Charles, I haven't had too much application to use that right now and test with it. So I can't really give you a great answer at this time. We can certainly take your question out for advisement, and I can look at some of our other clients and see if our customers and consultants and see if anybody else has used it. I have not had to use it at this time. And I'm assuming that he actually mentions the fact that he has like 20 on-premise Microsoft Exchange generic mailboxes. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you said types of customers. No. You can also have n number of monitors set up so that when you're actually in the cloud, not here, who's in the right spot. Let me get out of this, close the blueprint. So for all those different things that you're monitoring, you can set up, like there's just a demo monitor here. In some cases, for those 20 different mailboxes that I'm monitoring, I would then have 20 different things listed here. I'd have like monitor 1, monitor 2, monitor 3, etc. Because each one of these monitors has a single mailbox that it operates against. So it would operate in this case against the Cherwell placeholder or mailbox 1. And then so I would have 20 of those in the existing. I'm not sure how you're doing it today. And again, I can't be a good answer at the moment on the mail delivery service for you. But I can see if we can find you an answer.
Okay, he says thank you. The next one I'd like you to read through, Kim. It's another tip on content version, finding content version, and see if there's something new out of that we can bring to the group. And while Kim's doing that, I wanted to let everyone know I only have 3 questions left. So if there's any other questions you have, it could be on this topic or anything else you'd like to know about, now is the time to enter those. When I finish with these questions, if there's nothing further, we'll wrap our webinar at that time. So any other questions, please pop those in now.
So Laura, that it was the same, pretty much the same as what we talked about before. However, that was great that this actually is a good companion to this. I'm trying to get this all on the screen over here. I think it's there now. So this is in the web help. So where it actually talks about, like in this particular case, your content is a combination of the out-of-the-box content and your customized content, which sits on top of the platform, which, like I said, the platform are those things that allow you to do, like create a business object, that allow you to create a one-step, that allow you to do some of those things that you need to do. That's what's in your platform, and which, of course, connects with your SQL Server. All of those things are the layers of Cherwell. To find out your platform version, that's easy. There you can just go to Help About Cherwell and then look at that screen when you sign on, and it will give you that version right there. As far as the content version, it's what we did before, is we went to the, well, this is your out-of-the-box content version, which will actually tell you what version you started with. I don't remember, I do remember that being added. I don't remember what version that was added for. I might guess, based on the screen that we're displaying right now, that it was probably 820 that it was added for. So that is the way you would actually tell what content you started with. And you'll notice it tells you not to modify that version that's used by Cherwell.
Great, thanks for the tip.
Keeping in mind that that would only be the version that you started with. So if you've upgraded content along the way, that would not update. Okay, sorry.
All right. Next one, would you be able to provide a zip for the service catalog template and work unit light map?
I don't have a copy of that map because I build that. Basically, it is that different from customer to customer that I really build that map individually for each one of my customers. I would say that it probably takes, depending upon the customer, it takes 4 hours to 2 days, depending upon the customer, because some of them requires a little bit more, esoteric building to, kind of like manipulate in between things that already exist. And then we go through and we'll work to apply that. And we've deployed that as a service. So, I mean, with our customers, I mean, like I said, a couple of days of consulting to go ahead and, help get that into the production system. And we've done that with multiple clients.
Okay. I'll reach out to you, Corey, one-on-one and see if that's something you want to chat about further. All right, next question. Will the stored value change when a content upgrade map is applied?
It will not.
Great. I see the answer. Version 9.3. Is there a way to have multiple forms on a specific and switch between them via one step?
That is a great question. As of right now, when you're sitting, now you're getting into a little bit of tips and tricks territory here, because that's not actually, but I don't
We're
mind.
into the open forum now. Anything's up for grabs.
So, I'm just going to the incident just to give perspective here. So, and it doesn't matter whether you're on 9.5, you still don't have that capability. So here, this on this one, specifics is embedded here on step 3. And if you still go look at your control properties, I only have one of these things that I could actually use. I could use my standard form, my regular form, or I could use my summary form or my mini summary form. And in theory, you could, depending upon, you could alter between those 3 forms if you had a couple different forms. Of course, that's kind of like around not the intent of what Cherwell intended for each one of those things. But what you could do, and what I've done templated in the past, is you could, instead of having step 3 here as part of your incident, you can put step 3 on one of your form arrangements, and then you can make an embed, and you could actually embed based on some kind of content of something like step 1, step 2, step 3, and you could build additional forms and kind of like step through there. But that process implies that you are not going to use specifics as part of your incident. You're going to only use it as a thing on your form arrangement. And I've done something similar to that with approval, where I have an embedded object, and then based on whether it's a customer approval or a user approval or a team approval or a group approval, I'll display a different form and everything in the process. And if that answer didn't make sense, you can get in touch with Laura. Laura will get in touch with me and put the 2 of us together.
I think that sounds like a great idea. So I've approached our final question here. So this will serve officially as our final call for questions. Anything else you have, enter it now after we get this answer. If I don't see anything else, we'll go ahead and close out our webinar. Thanks for hanging in there with us. Typically, we schedule these events for an hour, but we do like to keep the lines open as long as you have questions. So hopefully this was valuable for everyone. Last question I have here. Do you always want to mark 8.3.1 compatibility when creating your map? If you've upgraded from an older version, for example, they started at version 5.01. And we'll be upgrading to 9.5.1 by February if all goes well, when we create new maps going forward.
I do, when I'm creating a map that is going to be used on the store, I usually try and say that it has a minimum version that it can be applied to. Some maps that don't matter, that are really more functionality and they're not really based on other content in Cherwell, then I will go ahead and check the box that says allow this to be applied to previous versions. I don't know if there's any special thing why I would mark 831. I don't know that there is. There's usually something that is current content or allow it to be applied to a previous system. Is there a version that allows you to mark a specific, I don't remember, that allows you to mark a specific version, content version? Come in here to a map, create. Oh, whoops. I did the map properties. All right, let's see here. Resolve. There's a allow this map to be, and I just usually get to it when I'm going through this. It allow this map to be applied to a different version. And I'm not seeing that at the moment, but usually it's around here somewhere that with the map properties. That'll basically say, you know, this map can be applied to previous versions. And I think that's after I've gone through, and I don't have a map ready for, you know, like let's see if I add something here. Add. Okay, it's here. I think it is. This isn't ready for distribution. Click OK. I don't see that. There used to be, and I don't remember, I don't see it here, but there was a thing that said allow this map to be applied to previous versions, and I don't see that on the newer system. So they may have removed that functionality. Are there any other questions, Laura? Or I mean, I can always, you know, get additional. I can always find out some additional information and get back to that person as well.
I don't see any follow-on questions, so yep, it looks like it answers his question. And I haven't had anything else come in, so I believe that'll be the conclusion today. If anyone is interested in sharing it with the team or watching again, we do have a recording of this. It takes us about a week to convert the video and get it loaded onto our website. And at that point, when it's live on our site, we will email the links out to everyone so you can watch or share. Hopefully we'll have another advanced practitioner call coming up in February or March, so keep your eye out for that. If you have suggestions of topics you'd like to see, I will leave our questions pane open for about 10 minutes. Feel free to pop in topic ideas, or you can also email me directly at any time as well. But I believe that's wrap for the day. Thank you so much, Kim, and I hope you all join us on future events.
Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.